Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of Inside Sweet Tooth, where we kind of let you see some of the people, when you talk to some of the people who make Sweet Tooth possible. Today, we have with us Rhys Martin, and Rhys wrote the book Lost Restaurants, Lost Restaurants of Tulsa. Rhys, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you this wonderful morning?
I'm doing good. Yeah, it's as I'm sure, excuse me, I'm sure people know that we film these ahead of time, but today's the snow day, so
Yes.
everyone's very excited. I see people out walking around, and um, it's all way too much, I think. Very exciting. Excuse me. So, how did you come to decide to write this book, The Lost Restaurants of Tulsa?
Well, this is a question that comes up every so often, and I can always tell if there are authors in the audience because they always kind of start frowning because the publisher came to me.
Really?
I didn't have to shop this around and ever find a publisher. I did some international travel a little over 10 years ago and started a travel blog when I was doing that. So after I came home, I decided I'm going to keep writing. I'm going to explore Oklahoma and the Midwest and just keep sharing that with people. I had gone down to kind of capture the closing of the Charcoal Oven, which was a restaurant in Oklahoma City on Northwest Expressway, big, beautiful neon sign, charcoal grilled hamburgers, that kind of thing. And I wrote about it. Well, the publisher, somehow they got a hold of that article that I'd written and called me, just cold called me and said, hey, we read this, it's great. We've done a couple of restaurant books in other towns. We want to do one for Tulsa. How would you like to do this for us? I have a deep love for Route 66 and kind of that era of American history, and thought, well, this seems like it'll go really, with my passions I have already. And I jumped in with both feet without really knowing how deep the water was, but that's how I got started.
All right. Well, so it's a great book. I mean, how do you start like gathering? How do you start something like that? I mean, and how do you gather all your information?
So again, that's a great question because I figured I'd, just hop in and find all this information and it wouldn't be that big of a deal. I didn't go to college. I did pretty well in high school, but I never really had to dig deep and do the all-night studying stuff.
Mm-hmm.
So I thought, okay, let's do this. And then I didn't know where to go. Thank God for my wife, Samantha. She, graduated from TU and has a history kind of research background in their English department. And so sat me down and calmed me down whenever I realized I really didn't know where to start. But logically started at the library downtown. The Central Library has a room full of Oklahoma history, various, books and articles and vertical files and all kinds of stuff. And that's really where I started, was going through old newspaper articles they had archived there and finding basic information about a lot of restaurants, and then use that to branch out to special collections at TU and the Tulsa Historical Society. And then even social media was a big help, finding the name of a restaurant or references to certain things and either searching for information or just posing a question to one of the many nostalgia groups that are out there, and seeing all the different responses that would come back that tied directly to people's memories. So it was a little bit of a slow start, but kind of like striking oil. Once I hit, it was a gusher.
I bet, yeah. And I know, in our store, because we sell the book, and I know that people will look at it and they'll pick it up and they'll say, well, I wonder if he has this in here. And 9 times out of 10, it's in there, And I'm sure people ask us, well, is he going to write another book sometime? I said, I don't know, the guy's a little busy, he's got other things to do, but maybe it could happen.
Yeah, it's something I leave open, and I'm always gathering information. I've started to amass quite a nice little collection of old menus and plates and silverware and all kinds of ephemera from restaurants. And people will reach out to me with stories of places that I really wanted to include, but just didn't have enough information. Places like Sleepy Hollow that, I get questions about and wish I'd had both the space in the book and the information to flesh it out. So I never say never, but you're right. I do have a couple irons in the fire. I'm heavy in Route 66 preservation and a few other things, but I'd love to write another one someday.
Yeah. Well, speaking of Route 66, I know that you're the president of the Oklahoma Route 66, is it the association?
Yep.
And a member of the Route 66 Commission and an advisor for the Route 66 Alliance. So that's a bit.
Yeah, I have a lot of hats.
Yeah.
I would say the one that takes up the most is president of the Oklahoma Route 66 Association.
Uh-huh.
It's a statewide nonprofit that's been around for over 30 years, which is dedicated to preserving Route 66, educating folks about it, and just helping keep the road alive.
Yeah. It's I did drive down there yesterday as I was going to the Tulsa Glassblowing School, and uh, Steve, things are changing on that on that road all the time. You know.
Yeah, it's little things from improving signage to encouraging private development. Like the Rose Bowl looks fantastic. Like I
Mhm.
am so happy that, they've got Christmas lights on it this year. Like it looks like it was never closed. So, that's really the key is to helping, whether it's through the neon sign grant or other things, help people understand that the road's still there and that it has an appeal that's a little bit different.
Hmm. Yeah, they're really. I think maybe that's Route 66 is even more popular outside of the United States, perhaps even. I know, I know you've talked to people who have traveled and want to drive the road.
Yeah, that shield is as recognizable as Mickey Mouse and Coca-Cola. And so it's a bucket list item for folks to come over, fly into Chicago from other countries and drive all the way out to Santa Monica, California. And I meet up with quite a few folks, whether they're part of a group or it's just a couple or, just a single person just traveling the road to see what it's all about. The Czech Association has been coming over for 20 years doing organized tours.
Really?
And when they started doing it, to them, it represented freedom. It represented stepping out from behind the Iron Curtain. It had such a huge like emotional attachment, and it still does for so many people.
Yeah, that is nice. Well, do you have any, I mean, in your collecting of stories and talking to people, do you have any little interesting or something that stands out to you that fun or just interesting uh, stories about some people who have talked to you about or how you've been doing the research?
Gosh, there's
It's
so
probably
many. When I do a book signing or when I was researching, people would come up to me and say, "Oh my, I'm so glad you have some information about this place. This is where I proposed to my wife." Or a woman would say, "This is the last place that I had a meal with my husband." Or, my grandparents would always take me here, when I was little. And there's a lot of little family stories because I mean, I tell folks the only thing that Tulsa likes more than a brand new restaurant is an old one.
I
And
agree.
so, one of the difficult things about being where we're at with COVID and things like that is that whole communal experience of going out with people and eating and having that is just kind of on hold right now. But through the whole process of writing this book and then talking to people afterwards has been learning these little tidbits of personal history. But that also goes into the restaurateurs themselves. The Middle Path Cafe was at 11th and Yale in the old Golden Drumstick building, which is sadly gone. It's a service station now. But that was run by some younger, hippie type people. Frosty Troy would come speak. They grew their own sprouts, stuff like that. But Tom Butcher, who ran Impressions at 15th and Lewis, would come over and would buy sprouts from them. And the Chinese culture in Tulsa is very close when it comes to the restaurants. They all know each other. They'll go try food at each other's restaurants. When I talked to the folks that ran the pagoda, they have that open on Thanksgiving. You'd have people come from all over Tulsa to enjoy a meal together as a larger family. And that's really the key when it comes to understanding and appreciating these small family-owned restaurants, because it's not just about it's something for your family, it's something for the family that's running it too. And it felt very special to be kind of a witness for folks, and getting to hear about people that would give the book to an elderly parent or a grandparent, and it would trigger all these memories that they'd never heard before. Because the memory is a funny thing, and all you need is one little detail, like, oh, there used to be a golden drumstick on Sheridan, and someone would say, oh, I've been telling people that for years, and no one believed me, and that kind of stuff. So I felt very fortunate to kind of be a conduit for that.
Yeah, well, my wife Janet has told me about that because she grew up in Tulsa. Yeah, they always went to Golden Drumstick. That was I mean, there was a special treat, and they really enjoyed it. So,
Yeah, I
but
can't remember who it was I talked to, but he said, you'd go in there on your birthday and it'd be a big deal. And he said, there are some years can't even count how many birthdays I had.
yeah, that's right. That's right. Well, so, and what anything new you can reveal to us from what are you all working on the commission uh, or what's going to be the latest improvement there on Route 66?
Well, from a statewide perspective, the Oklahoma or the Route 66 Centennial as a whole comes up in 2026. So we're about 5 years away from the road turning 100. So on the statewide level, we're working with the Oklahoma Department of Transportation to enhance some signage, add some new signs to kind of help people, with wayfinding when they're out traveling the road. But from a Tulsa specific perspective, we're pretty close to getting the final details together on a facade grant program to help business owners along Route 66 in Tulsa help improve the facades of their building, either if they want to return it back to its historic state, or just help fix up something that needs a little bit of love. Because the Neon Sign Grant Program, which we launched almost 2 years ago, has been very successful, and this is kind of the natural evolution of that process. So it's really exciting. Every time I drive down 11th Street, I feel like there's another business going in that may not have considered it as a place to go to put their roots in, had the rest of this development not been happening.
Yeah, it's it's really nice to see all that going on. Well, Rhys, thank you very much. And again, the book, Lost Restaurants of Tulsa. We have met at Sweet Tooth, or there's other places, but you can get them at Sweet Tooth. And and thanks, Rhys. I really appreciate your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me.
You're welcome.